I'm going to tell you how making $7,500 in 2 weeks doing nothing felt like shit. And I'm also going to tell you how losing thousands of dollars made me feel thankful. If you don't know by now, we're diving into the world of cryptocurrency. For those of you who aren't familiar with the world of crypto, take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is the blind leading the blind here. I've been trying to wrap my head around this space for months, have made every mistake that you could make as a novice exploring the space, and I'm still head over heels in love, fully enthralled with the possibilities. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This isn't a cryptocurrency primer. I've got some links in the show notes to some of my favorite readings on crypto, but here, it's just a little story time.
Wouldn't it be?
Story 1 is about investing in the Ethereum ecosystem. First, it's Ethereum. No, not Bitcoin. I still, to be honest, don't really get the appeal of Bitcoin. It's this form of a currency replacement that can be traded on the blockchain, but there's not much that can be done with it. But that's for another day. Ethereum, from the day I started really reading about it, I've been so bullish about the possibilities. A network that doesn't just serve as a digital currency, but also as a platform where decentralized applications could be built and smart contracts could be enforced? Wait, what the fuck does that mean? I'm still not sure, but I've gone a lot further to try and find out. I learned about DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations, these headless companies with radical transparency and governance. You remember Greg Kamstra, the CEO of Riverdog, that talked about employee ROI a while back? He's been one of the people serving me crypto red pills. Here's a part of my conversation with him trying to understand the power of DAOs with one of his favorite examples, MakerDAO.
So a DAO is a governance protocol. Largely the ones I'm familiar with are on Ethereum, but it could be on any blockchain. And basically, it's a set of rules and kind of a framework for how you're going to coordinate to do something. So I'll use MakerDAO as an example. I saw a few tweets about this decentralized protocol called MakerDAO. And basically, these guys have group calls every week to talk about how they're doing and how they're, building this crypto empire. And they put out monthly financial reports. And I remember this was back in January, and I just looked at the financial report, and I think it was one of the first ones they had done. Basically, MakerDAO issues a stablecoin called DAI that's intended to be pegged 1-for-1 to $1. And it also will make loans, right? And kind of the way it works is you might deposit Bitcoin and then borrow some DAI, and then you can use your DAI to do whatever you want, go spend it or whatever. And maybe there's reasons why you don't want to sell the Bitcoin. For example, you want to participate in upside. The mission of the DAO is to sort of be able to do that and provide, liquidity, provide loans, provide a stable coin that the ecosystem can use. There's all these things that it's doing. And to do that, obviously, you need to set policies for how you're going to maintain a currency peg. You need to figure out how much you're willing to lend against different types of assets. You need to do all these things. And the way that you do that is there's a token, and it's a governance token, and it's like a vote. So if you own X of this governance token, it's called Maker. Anybody really can submit a proposal, and basically that proposal is a change to the contract, right? So it's a change to how the protocol works, and the holders can read it, they can debate in forums or on Discord or wherever, and then they can vote. And if it passes, then that change gets put into practice. And it was just mind-boggling how well this thing was doing. And the thing that was amazing was you could look through the deck, and then you could go on YouTube and just listen to this governance call and listen to them talking about their business basically, and who else had comparable businesses, and how good their thing was doing versus other people, and how they could maybe make it better. And it was like sitting in a company meeting, it was like sitting in like a board meeting or something, where these people were sort of just talking about, hey, maybe we should do something like this. It feels like our competitors are doing this, but it's just all on YouTube for anybody to see. And I was looking at the results and thinking, holy buckets, if this were like a private fintech, this would be the most talked about thing in tech. But as it is, I mean, not that many people even know about MakerDAO.
I think what will really draw out the distinctions here is, can we start with, imagine MakerDAO as a traditional private company. So if that were the case, they would raise capital from some sort of investors. They would have their own company of employees and define their own articles of incorporation. They would have their own board governance. You would get the typical visibility that you might get into any private or public company in terms of how they operate or what they choose to do.
100%. And actually, it's very similar. So at the beginning, that is how it started, right? So they raised money from Andreessen Horowitz. So a very, well-known name for everybody who's done private tech investing. And there was a foundation, and it was a little bit more top-down command and control, and the foundation developed a bunch of stuff. And one thing that's kind of amazing in this kind of DAO thing is it's like effectively owned by the users, owned by the community. And it's a more market-driven and yet kind of like less selfish way to govern. Like both those two things are kind of, and as just like one example, which I thought was very remarkable, the foundation got a grant of Maker tokens at the beginning to use to sort of develop it, right? So they had a treasury of these tokens. And because the protocol has done really well, I think this was worth about $450 million in the market. And the team controlled this foundation. They had $450 million they could have spent. As part of the goal of decentralizing it, they were trying to get the community more involved. They were trying to kind of decentralize and put it out there. And so they actually just gifted this $450 million worth of tokens back to the DAO. So now the DAO holders can just vote on where it should get spent or what should happen to it, and they dissolve the foundation. So it's like kind of this like amazing act at the end where they just sort of said like, here you go, here's $450 million, and you don't see that a lot. And so there's a whole bunch of these, and they're building kind of interesting products, and it's sort of a way to develop software and develop an ecosystem, develop a market in a way where all the people that are using it might be benefiting from the economics of it. And so everybody who participates in the ecosystem is able to have a part of the economics as well. It's like an extraordinarily flexible and tradable form of equity.
Okay, so some of the smartest people around me were all obsessing over this space. So I started figuring out how to get in. I started simple, putting some money in BlockFi, earning amazing interest rates while investing in cryptocurrencies. Then I went in harder, setting up a Coinbase account so I could buy MakerDAO and other tokens or coins. I bought all of these as long-term investments, believing the next decade or two is going to see some major activity in this space and a ton of value being created. I'm someone who doesn't like to look at my investments much. I'm not a day trader. I'm a Vanguard index fund, check your portfolio once a year at tax time kind of guy. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, funny you should ask. At first, everything was going up. It was brilliant. I was brilliant. I was checking my portfolio constantly, putting more money in. More of my conversation started becoming about crypto. In fact, I was talking to someone who was telling me how he was making millions on Dogecoin. And it frankly pissed me off because he was calling it Dogecoin. And for those of you who don't know, Dogecoin is essentially what the whole GameStop fiasco was for crypto. A joke that lasted so long that no one knew if it was a joke anymore. This guy got in, rode the wave, and got out up more than $3 million before Elon appeared on SNL and Dogemania ended. I was jealous that I was only making thousands. I mean, I wasn't jealous of Doge in particular, because that's a garbage investment, but the entire crypto market was booming. I was jealous that I didn't have as much strength in my clearly superior convictions. I tried to figure out ways to put more money to work. The story could have taken a bad turn, but luckily for me, as my jealousy and greed started to spread their tentacles in me, the crypto market started crashing before I could execute my plan. It was a sorely needed bucket of cold water. At this point, I've lost nearly $7,000 in total in my crypto portfolio, but I'm so thankful. You know why? That friend who made $3 million on Doge, I caught up with him recently, and now he's lost over $2 million. And not $2 million of his $3 million winnings. He's lost $2 million even with the $3 million he won on Doge. How? He went so hard into all his crypto bets that when they went south, he didn't have any more money to put in. He just had to watch as 60% of his portfolio disappeared and hold on for dear life hoping it would recover. Luckily, things are recovering, but when I heard that, I couldn't help but feel thankful that I hadn't had the time or money to dig myself that deep a hole. So maybe this isn't the best crypto sales pitch, yet on we go. Story 2 is about participating in the Ethereum ecosystem. When I said I fell in love with the possibilities, I didn't just want to invest in the space. I wanted to experience cryptocurrency, participate, understand what it felt like as a tool. It took my dumbass a long time, but I figured out how to get MetaMask and actually transact with cryptocurrency. I learned how to stake tokens, though I still don't know what that actually means. I learned how to play Axie Infinity, this game that requires you to purchase NFTs to become your own little Pokemon trainer. Oh, sorry, NFTs, non-fungible tokens. NFTs are basically the digital equivalent to sports cards, artwork, or other physical collectibles. To be honest, my first thought was it seemed kind of stupid. It's like artificially imposed scarcity. Can't I just copy the file of whatever the art NFT is? Then I realized that most of our thoughts on scarcity for collectibles are artificial. You can reproduce a lot of great artwork in the physical realm with a good printer or even a good artist, but they won't be worth diddly squat. It reminded me of being in love with collecting hockey cards as a kid, which, by the way, was a perfect reminder to myself to exercise caution. The thousands my parents spent on hockey cards could have made me a lot of money if I had picked basketball or baseball cards instead. Now, I've ended up decorating my office with a bunch of hockey cards that I couldn't pay to get rid of. So I knew the love of collectibles, but I also knew the inherent risk if you think of it as an investment. So anyways, I watched the NFT space from the sidelines for a while until I heard about the perfect way in. My buddy Dan Heyman, who had been in the Ethereum space since our time in B school, was starting a new NFT ecosystem called Palm. He told me that his company was working with Damien Hirst, a famous artist that I'd never heard of. I looked him up and I looked up the project. It was really interesting. I'm going to take a moment to tell you about it in the hopes that it kind of brings to life the possibilities in the NFT space. The project was called The Currency. Take 2 minutes to listen to the project.
So I took things, they're A4, and I just covered them in dots, kind of messy. And it's like, I really like them. And I did little tests on paper. And then when I looked at them, I thought, they're kind of unique, but they all look the same. They're actually unique. They're handmade, so they're not a print, but they look like a print. And then I thought, what if I made these and then treated it like money or something? And I thought, if I made more than 500, what if I made like 1,000 or 5,000? And then we looked at it and we realised that 5,000 wasn't enough. We have to make 10,000 in order to have enough to kind of move around in that way. No two colours are exactly the same, so every colour is different, and they're all placed randomly in until the whole surface area is filled with a lot of different bleed through as well. I mean, maybe I should just say roughly what I'm doing. You apply first of all, sort of application process, and then you get issued with an NFT. All the people who are successful get an NFT. So the first thing is an NFT, and then after you then can redeem your NFT for an actual artwork. And if you do that, the NFT will be destroyed. And then at the end of about a year or something, all the NFTs that aren't redeemed will exist and will destroy the artworks. And we'll do that like publicly.
And it's like, you know, it's almost like the behaviour of the human beings that are all involved in it. Is, you know, it just will have a life of its own. And I can feel the confines of my beliefs. So for me, it's like, I shouldn't, as an artist, have a problem with, you know, it should be an equal problem to burn an NFT or to burn a piece of paper. But I have a much harder problem burning the paper than I do the NFTs. And I think, as the creator of this, I kind of look at the scenarios and I go, well, what if, 10% are NFTs and 90% are paper? I go, yeah, that's cool. And then I go, but what if 90% are NFTs and there's only 10% paper? And I go, oh yeah, shit. The thing that gets me the most excited about it is that when I think back, it's like I've never really, when you say understand it, I've never really understood money. It's like you look at money in its basic form and it's like, all these things, art, money, commerce, they're all ethereal. And I'm like, oh my God.
You can't control it.
You know, the whole project really is like an experiment, and it's just like an experiment in belief.
There you have it, 10,000 pieces of spot painting artwork that seemed frankly like my 5-year-old could have done them. You have a year to decide if you want the digital NFT version or the physical artwork. And then after a year, whichever one you choose, the other one is deleted permanently. It was a massive social experiment that I just loved, and a friend was involved, and it's on a more eco-friendly Ethereum ecosystem. It sounded like the perfect way in. I applied to buy one of the 10,000 pieces and got the chance to. It cost $2,000, not a small sum for a piece of artwork. Which, if you do the math, $2,000 times 10,000 pieces, that's $20 million for the set of 10,000, which is more than the $19 million that Damien Hirst's most expensive piece of art went for at auction. So it's not like he's donating these pieces to see what happens. He's making a killing on this. Instead of selling one piece through an auction, he's fractionalizing the ownership of the piece into 10,000. To give you a sense, I've probably spent a total of $100 on art in my entire life. I'm not exactly what you would describe as a person with refined taste. But this was the chance to be a part of something cool, a ticket to Charlie's Chocolate Factory. I also felt confident the value would go up over the next year. Kind of like the GameStop investing fiasco that happened a few months ago. I knew the ride would definitely go up even if it would crash eventually. I felt confident I would be smart enough to get out when the time was right. Again, for my technologically illiterate dumbass, it took me entirely too long to figure it out. But I got it. This piece. 9549, Protect from the Cold. It felt so weird looking at it, looking at all its precise measurements, realizing it was mine. I wanted to see, what did the world think of my piece? I knew there was a marketplace for reselling these. I didn't want to sell it at all, but I knew I had a full year and I wanted to feel what the whole process feels like. I wanted to take part in the experiment. So I looked at the marketplace. I saw that many of the pieces were on sale for $3,000 to $4,000. A nice markup from the $2,000 people had spent. Not bad for a couple days' work. But I didn't want to sell. I just wanted to see what it felt like. So I priced it at $9,549. Not a lot of thought went into it. I wanted to experience the process of putting it up for sale. Then next thing you know, over the next day or two, offers start coming in. $4,500, $5,200, $7,700, $6,800. It felt crazy. Here I was, less than a week in. These numbers didn't make sense. If each of these pieces was worth $7,700, that made the entire collection worth nearly $80 million. Like I said, Hearst's most expensive piece sold at auction was not even $20 million. And 10,000 pieces should take away from the scarcity, should detract from that scarcity value. I started to think about how fractional ownership works and how that might actually increase the value of the collective. One night in bed on my computer, I looked over at my wife and I showed her my computer screen. I said, "Look at this piece of art. You like it?" She's like, not really." I was like, "Well, I own it. I paid $2,000 for it." I waited for her eyes to fully bulge, but before she could actually get mad, I was like, "Look, someone's offering me $8,000 for it right now. But I'm not selling. This thing is going to be worth a lot soon enough." And she's like, "I really can't see it, but if you say so." The very next morning I woke up to an email. The subject looked spammy. It said, "Congratulations, your NFT has been sold." I was like, what? How could that happen? I have to accept the offer, and no way I did that while I was sleeping. I logged in and realized it wasn't a mistake. I only had the choice to accept the offer because it was less than my asking price. Someone had paid the full $9,549 and bought the piece. Now, again, that's $7,500 more than what I paid for it, not a week later. Yet, I felt sad. I was no longer part of the experiment. I didn't get to decide if I wanted to own the physical piece or the NFT. I was off this little roller coaster ride, and there was still so much time left. I felt like there was a lot more fun to be had. My wife tried to console me with what we had made, but it wasn't about the money. It really felt like I was in on something cool. I had this conviction that something was happening, and I had actually taken the plunge. On a side note, it's been a week since I sold the NFT. The average price of the last 10 pieces sold on this marketplace, $35,000. Ouch. That's how making $7,500 feels like shit. When you sell it by mistake and realize you could have made a lot more. Anyways, a lot of talk about money, which seems to always happen with crypto. But what have I learned about cryptocurrency 6 months into my journey? There are things I love. 1, I love the possibilities of making middlemen matter less, which is what decentralized finance offers, things like MakerDAO. I love the idea of making play to work more of a possibility, which Axie Infinity is the first instance of, but I can see a lot more examples happening. I love the idea of NFTs, these digital collectibles, offering new ways of forming tribes and taking ownership in the things you care about. At the same time, there are things that really worry me about cryptocurrency. The world of cryptocurrency seems to push polarization. There are people who love it, who become true believers, and those that think it's terrible and refuse to even understand it. Second, it seems to accentuate our gambling vices. Cryptocurrency seems to be so much more volatile, and those big swings up and down make it feel a lot closer to a gambling experience than an investing experience, which I can't say I love. And lastly, I think cryptocurrency also accentuates our obsessive tendencies as humans. Unlike the stock market, which operates 9:30 to 4 Monday to Friday, crypto is 24/7, 365 days a year. That means you have a volatile asset that's always trading, always moving price. It's hard not to check your crypto portfolio a lot more than it's healthy. Ultimately, I guess I think crypto is interesting and will play a substantive role in our future. Or, to put it another way, I think the arc of the crypto universe will be long. So wouldn't it be awesome if we tried to bend that arc towards justice, towards a better world? So I don't know if I'm going to make money in this space, but I know it's a space I want to keep participating in. Last thing before I end this, what are the next steps in my cryptocurrency journey? Well, here's what I'm thinking about. I'm going to try and allocate something like 15% of my portfolio to crypto. I'm going to try to do that not through mobile apps and look at it almost never. I'm going to treat it like a Vanguard fund. And then in terms of participating, I love the idea of healthcare disruption. There's this company, or a DAO, called Apolis, which is offering decentralized healthcare for freelancers, and I'm looking for how I can participate there. And then in terms of NFTs, I found this idea called Rewilder. It's a crypto-native nonprofit that's trying to coordinate the use of NFTs to actually purchase land for wildlife conservation. I'm still looking into it, but the idea seems really exciting. And then there's this new project called Station. It seems, well, basically like an educational project to get more people into crypto and Web3. Which, side note, Web3 I think is a way better marketing word than crypto. The connotations to people who are unfamiliar are just way better with something like Web 3.0 than the shadiness associated with the word crypto. But anyways, as someone who's personally found it incredibly difficult to engage with the ecosystem, figuring out wallets, gas fees, bidding, all this stuff, the possibilities of this project really excite me, getting more people to understand what the potential is in this space. I'd love to do some writing or a few podcast episodes for them or find some other way to get involved. One line in particular stood out to me in their announcement. We dream of a future of meaningful work for everybody. That sounds awesome. That sounds like a team trying to bend the arc of Web3 towards justice. My own personal version, as someone who's decidedly anti-work, I dream of a future of meaningful play for everybody. But that's a story for another time. Judging by how fast this space is evolving, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a completely different list of projects a month from now. But these are a few that are capturing my attention now. Thanks a lot for listening. If you made it this far and you ever want to talk crypto, please reach out. If you know anyone who might like this, please share it with them. And now, one more thing before I leave you.
Welcome to Kids Corner.
Car ride diplomacy.
Did you bring snacks?
Yes, I got goldfish and Teddy Grahams chocolate chip.
Goldfish! Can I hold it? Can I hold it?
Okay, so what's fair is you both want goldfish, you have to share, and Sonia said, can I hold it first, so she gets to hold it. And then you said, can I get a handful and then I'll give it to her? And what did I say to that?
Yes, that's a very good idea.
Yes, that's a very good idea. So, Sheila, you get a handful and then give the bag to Sonia to hold. Wouldn't it be